UFC 327, Proshka versus Olberg is this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card from the bottom all the way to top, give my full card predictions, and what I think is going to happen in each fight. And yeah, let's just start all the way at the bottom. This is a pretty great card. Would have been worth paying for it when it was pay-per-view. This is a great card from the bottom all the way to top. There's not really any bad fights. There are a couple that are not as great, but they're still interesting fights. Even though a couple fights have fallen off that were going to be even extra better. This was going to be the best card of the year, probably. Now it's going to be in that conversation for second or third, I'm guessing. But we start the card off with Charles Radke versus Francisco Prado. This fight, this got added very recently, I think. I don't remember this one being on originally. But when I was looking at this, I don't know why I had Francisco Prado in my mind on like a winning streak, but I saw him lose when I went into UFC 318. He lost that fight, and he's been on like a 3-fight losing streak, including a loss to Zell Huber, who has not aged well as a loss, or as somebody who has beaten you at all. And Radke's doing decent. He's lost to Mike Mallet, but then he won his last fight. And yeah, I'm going to go with Charles Radke to win this fight. I think he ends up getting it to the ground and submitting Francisco Prado, probably by rear naked choke. I think leg kicks are going to work pretty good in this fight for him, but I think he's going to end up getting it to the ground and submitting Francisco Prado and probably ending his UFC career, because I think there'll be like a four fight losing streak. And yeah, I think Charles Radke wins this fight to start off the card. Then we move up to Kelvin Gastelum versus Vicente Luque. This fight is an interesting one to look at. This is at middleweight, so it is not in Luque's ballpark, really. Luque was a welterweight. Gastelum tried to be a welterweight for a while, but he's too fat and he couldn't do it. He kept just not being able to make the weight. Kelvin, though, and I believe it was his last fight, was against Joe Pyfer, and was putting it on Joe Pyfer as that fight went on. And Joe Pyfer is now in the top, 5 of the UFC middleweight division after knocking out Israel Adesanya. Even though it wasn't the most dominant performance ever, he still is up there. And Gastelum just went 3 rounds with him and could have almost beaten him. And so I'm going to go with Kelvin Gastelum for that reason. I think being up a weight, he's going to have more control at this weight than Luque. I think he's going to be able to be more used to it, use his weight around a little bit better at this. And I don't know if Luque will really be able to control Kelvin Gastelum on the ground or anything with this weight difference. And so yeah, I'm going to go with Kelvin Gastelum to beat Vicente Luque, and I think it honestly might even be by knockout. In the second round earlier on, where he's been kind of chopping low with leg kicks and then goes to throw a leg kick, catches him with a cross and hurts him, gets him down and knocks him out. And I think Kelvin Gastelum beats Vicente Luque. And yeah, we move on to Chris Padilla versus Markel Medeiros. This fight, I'm going back and forth, and a lot of this card is a lot of me thinking, oh, one person can win, the other person can win, the one person can win, the other person can win. And so I would not be surprised if I only get 2 or 3 fights right on this card, because it is a lot of back and forth for me, and I don't have many that I think are locks. But this one, Chris Padilla versus Markel Medeiros, I'm going to go with Chris Padilla. I think he's fought a little bit better competition and done a little bit better. I was just checking it, and of course I forget all their names now. But Chris Padilla is... I've seen a little bit more from him, and he's impressed me a little bit more with who he's fought, some of the durability he's got. And I think he can kind of out-tough and out-push Markel Medeiros and kind of physicality him a little bit more and try and wear on him, and I think he'll end up winning this fight by a close split decision. I think it's going to be a close fight where Medeiros clearly wins a round, Padilla clearly wins a round, and I think Padilla's going to do better as it goes on. And I think, honestly, that second round is going to be the swing round for either of them. But, yeah, Markel Medeiros, I think, loses to Chris Padilla. Yeah, we move on. That is it for the early prelims. Then we get up to Tatiana Suarez versus Lupi Godinez. Um, this is an interesting one because Tatiana Suarez is one of the best women's strawweights in the world. Lupi Godinez is up and coming and is looking very good. But I think Tatiana Suarez is better, and I think Tatiana Suarez wins this fight. I think her wrestling is very dominant for most of this division. I think Tatiana could be the second best women's strawweight in the world after Zhang Wei Li. A fight between her and Mackenzie Dern I would be interested to see, but I think Tatiana would win that. Um, yeah, and Zhang Wei Li shut down Tatiana completely in their fight. Um, yeah, Tatiana Suarez I think beats Lupi Godinez. In a somewhat boring fight. I think this is going to be one of the worst fights on the card. But I think Tatiana Suarez wins this one where she uses her wrestling and her grappling to control Lupi. Yeah, Tatiana controls Lupi for majority of the fight, and I think she gets the win, maybe by submission in the third round, but after wearing on Lupi for a while, but I think it's going to end up being a decision 30-27 for Tatiana Suarez, where Lupi has her moments, but Tatiana's pressure is overwhelming and gets her the win. Then we have Mateusz Gamrot versus Esteban Ribovic. This fight I am excited for because Ribovic has yet to have a boring fight anytime I've ever watched him. Constantly entertaining, very good striking, and is looking pretty good. He beat Zellhuber on the Sphere that has not aged very well, but he's had very good fights where I believe he had a close fight with somebody and he lost it, and then he won his last fight. And Ribovic is great. He always in entertaining fights. And Gamrot always willing to step up against anybody. You can't take that away from Gamrot. He will always step up. No matter who the competition is. He just is coming off of the loss to Charles Oliveira in Rio, which that is somebody to lose to. Charles, that's aged perfectly. Charles was not washed after that Ilya knockout and then went on to dominate Gamrot and then dominate Max Holloway. Gamrot looked okay in moments of that fight against Charles, but I think his wrestling is really his strong suit. Charles is somebody that having wrestling, just bare wrestling as your strong suit is hard to do. And this fight, I've been swinging back and forth with it, but it's a weird phenomenon with humans in general where something that can't be done or is perceived to not be able to happen or won't happen, hasn't been done before, those types of things, they seem impossible, and the first person to do it, it takes them a long time, and then they do it, and it's then repeated after that by many people succeeding them. And it happens in all sorts of sports, different sports, where you break that barrier and then other people start breaking it. Skating, it's very popular in skating, where that's a thing that obviously a lot of us have heard the clips about it. And I think that applies in some aspects to MMA as well, where a fighter who has been perceived to not be able to be knocked down or knocked out or finished, then once they break that barrier of boom, it's happened, they've been finished, they've been knocked down, they've been knocked out, then other people start to do it in succession after them. I mean, look at Max Holloway. Max Holloway had never been knocked down ever in his career, then gets knocked down by Gaethje, and then by Topuria, and knocked out by Topuria, and then knocked out by Poirier after that. Gamrot had never been finished, I believe, and now Charles Oliveira has proved that you can finish Gamrot. You don't just have to beat him in a decision. You can finish him. And I think Esteban Ribovic is going to do it. I think Gamrot's going to go out there with something to prove of, hey, I lost to Charles Oliveira. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try and prove that I can land on this guy too and try and do what I need to do to him. And I think Ribovic is going to cause more damage, cause more visible damage to Gamrot. And I think he's going to finish Gamrot with a knee in the second round after the 4-minute mark. I think it's going to be close where Gamrot in the first round was trying to put on a lot of the wrestling, and Ribovic was having to work really hard to keep it off. And I think in the second round, he's going to start finding his groove more and being able to put Gamrot off. And I think he's going to be able to finish Gamrot. I don't know why. I've had a weird feeling since this got announced that, yeah, Gamrot should win this one, and I would not be surprised if he does. But I've had that weird feeling in the back of my mind that it's going to be a late second round finish, probably with a knee to the stomach or to the head. And then Esteban Ribovic is going to finish Mateusz Gamrot. And yeah, I'm going with Ribovic. I would not be surprised if Gamrot won. He's got incredible wrestling, decent enough striking, and I think he should win this. He's number 8 in the world. I'm glad Ribovic is getting this jump up, but I think Ribovic is going to try and capitalize on it. This is the best time to capitalize on it, is when Gamrot is coming off of the what I believe is his first finish in his career. If I'm wrong about that, then most of my argument goes out the window. But I think Ribovic is going to go out there, and I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to finish Mateusz Gamrot and get himself into the rankings. So, yeah. Then we move up from Mateusz Gamrot Ribovic to Kevin Holland versus Randy Brown. Another absolute banger on this fight, and one that I was going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth between. And this one, I think the way I'm swaying is that I think Randy Brown will win this fight. See, do I want to go with Randy Brown? Right now I'm rethinking it again, because now I'm imagining Randy Brown did what he did to Nicholas Dalby, and it was an amazing performance, amazing knockout, but that was against somebody shorter than him, not as technical. Kevin Holland is a good fighter who knows how to fight, do it well. Randy Brown just got knocked out by Bonfim. Kevin Holland is a really good fight, but I don't see... Kevin Holland lost to Daniel Rodriguez, and I do not see Randy Brown doing that, but I also do see Randy Brown losing to Mike Millot. In a way, but I also think Mike Millot could be beaten by Randy Brown, but then I could also just see Kevin Holland just doing what he needs to do and beating Randy Brown here. I wish I had a coin to flip, because this one, it's back and forth for me. I think Kevin Holland's boxing is better, but I think Randy Brown's more powerful. And again, Kevin Holland was somebody who hadn't been knocked down in so long. And then in the fight I went and saw him against Daniel Rodriguez, he got knocked down like 6 times. He got knocked down and almost finished multiple times in that fight. And I think Randy Brown beats Daniel Rodriguez. I'm going to go with Randy Brown. I'm going to stick to my gut. I can already see it when Kevin Holland gets his hand raised after a 30-27 decision, where he clearly outboxes Randy Brown. But I'm going to go with Randy Brown to win this fight via a decision. I don't think he's going to finish Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland's somebody way too hard to finish. But I'm going to go with Randy Brown to win this fight. I'm just going to stick with it. I really like both of these fighters, so I'm happy with whoever wins. But I'm going to go with Randy Brown. I'm going to just stick with it. Kevin Holland, prove me wrong. I kind of hope you do, but also I do like Randy Brown, so I'm also not hoping you do. And we move on to the feature prelim of the night, Patricio Pitbull versus Aaron Pico. Patricio Pitbull coming off of the win over Dan Ige at the card I went to again, where he beat Dan Ige in a very close and boring fight. And Aaron Pico coming off of the spinning elbow knockout loss to Lerone Murphy, where Lerone stepped in on short notice. Aaron Pico was winning that fight, doing pretty good, and then got caught. And that's happened quite a few times in his career at Bellator. This is a matchup of former Bellator fighters. Pitbull, one of the best Bellator fighters ever, former champion, and Pico, never a champion, but very, very popular. And yeah, this is an interesting one, because I think Pitbull is the more technical fighter. I think he's the better fighter, and I think in their primes, I think Pitbull wins this fight majority of the time. But, I think Pico is dangerous enough to catch Pitbull and put him out. And Dan Ige seems to be slowing down. He beat Sean Woodson, but he was losing that fight until they got him the knockout. He lost to Lerone Murphy. He had a good performance against Diego Lopez before, both of those, I believe. Then the Woodson fight where he got the knockout, but then lost to Lerone Murphy. Then, what else? Then he lost to Pitbull, and now he's lost to Milquez Acosta, where Milquez Acosta just showed levels, I guess. I think Aaron Pico beats Patricio Pitbull, and I think he knocks him out in the second round early or first round knockout late. Where Aaron Pico puts on this pressure, and I don't know if Pitbull is one of those guys now at his age where he's got that power to just put out Pico's lights. I think Pico's going to wear on him pretty hard, pretty quickly, and I think he's going to put out Pitbull in the first round, end of it, or early second round. I think Pico's got good enough boxing. I think his wrestling is decent enough. And I just don't see Pitbull having that one-shot power at this point in his career. And the speed, I think Pico is very quick. I just don't know if Pitbull has that right now to shut out the lights of somebody like Aaron Pico, who, yes, could be very chinny. That was the perfect spinning back elbow from Lerone Murphy, and Pico does have a history of getting knocked out, but Pitbull's older now, man, and hasn't looked great in the UFC. I think Ige could have won that fight and then lost real bad to Yair Rodriguez. I see Aaron Pico beating Patricio Pitbull via a knockout. Yeah, I'm going to go with knockout in the first or early second. We move on from the prelims to Cub Swanson versus Nate Landwehr. Cub Swanson in his retirement fight. I know you probably saw my video if you're watching this or you watch me on TikTok at all. But Cub Swanson, the final WEC fighter active on the UFC roster, most likely retiring after this fight. I don't know about Nate Landwehr if he's retiring, but I know Cub is almost certainly retiring. And I would like to see them give something to Cub, whether it's a WEC where the UFC logo is on his shorts, or even give them the WEC gloves. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Cub Swanson in this fight. I think he's still powerful. Obviously, he's proven that. Who did he fight? Billy Quarantillo, I think, was his last fight, and he knocks him out in a very fun fight. I think Cub is still powerful, still technical enough to beat certain young guys, and I think Nate Landwehr is way past that point. I think he's kind of getting a little bit more worse for wear, damage-wise, and I think Cub Swanson's going to knock out Nate Landwehr in the first round, put out Nate Landwehr and finish him and go off into retirement. And yeah, I think Cub Swanson wins this fight pretty clearly. Nate Landwehr could, but I just don't know if he has the chin anymore to resist Cub Swanson's power. And I think Cub's going to mix it up pretty well, go to the body, get him to move his hands down, and then catch him as he's retreating on the back foot from something. And yeah, I think Cub Swanson puts out Nate Landwehr relatively early into the first round. I would say halfway point around there. Nate Landwehr did not impress me in his last fight, and I think he is really getting worse on the worst end of his career, and so I think Cub is going to put him out. Then we move from the first prelim to Dominic Reyes versus Johnny Walker. This is an interesting fight. These are two guys that are pretty chinny now, but also very long, very tall. The guy who did beat John Jones, Dominic Reyes, and the guy who was supposed to be beating John Jones, Johnny Walker. We saw how that went. Now Johnny Walker coming off of a win where he knocked out Zhang in China. And Reyes coming off of a loss to Carlos Ulberg from the main event. But also before that, 3 knockouts in a row where he knocked out, who was it? Jacoby, then he knocked out Anthony Smith, then he knocked out, Nikita Krylov. And Johnny Walker coming off of the win over Zhang, but also a couple of losses, I believe. And yeah, I'm going to go with Dominic Reyes to win this fight. I think Carlos Ulberg's got the slickness, got that power. Is a bad stylistic matchup for Reyes because you don't want, as somebody like Ulberg, Reyes does like going in, but he also likes being on the back foot. And I think he was kind of forcing himself to get out of his comfort zone to go after Ulberg. He's not that much of a pressure fighter where he likes to push the pace real hard. And I think that's what got him caught, because it was the second he pushed forward too much, he got caught. Walker's also chinny enough where I think Reyes can catch him. I think, honestly, this is whoever lands the best punch first wins this fight. And I think Reyes is going to win this fight. I think he's going to land it. I think his body kicks will do decent here. And I just don't think Walker's coordinated or technical enough to kind of really stand there with certain strikers. So I'm going to go with Dominic Reyes to win this fight. Obviously, Walker can win by whatever means necessary. This is another coin flip one. And me being pretty delusional that I just want to see Dominic Reyes do well again. But I think Johnny Walker loses it. Obviously, he could win. I'm going to pick Dominic Reyes, but this is a 50-50 fight for me. It's literally whoever lands that shot. It should be a fun, knockout guaranteed fight. With Walker doing some crazy stuff, Reyes possibly landing a great shot, and yeah, I think Dominic Reyes does win though. I think he's a little bit smarter than Walker, and I think he's still got some drive in him to go. I think Walker knows he'll never get to the championship level. Reyes, I don't think he ever thinks he'll get to the championship level, but I think Reyes has more to give against higher level competition at this point than Walker, because Walker is so chinny. So, yeah, Dominic Reyes, I think, beats Johnny Walker in what is truly a 50-50, whoever lands the punch first fight. Then we move up to the feature fight of the night, Curtis Blaydes versus Josh Hockett. This fight is a fight that, honestly, I'm going to probably pick against the guy I want to win. But this fight is interesting. Curtis Blaydes, who is, what was he, number 5 in the world? Number 5, versus Josh Hockett, who is unranked, has 2 wins in the UFC, and is now getting shot all the way up at number 5. A smaller heavyweight, 6'1", 230, versus Curtis Blaydes, 6'4", 250. If I'm being honest, in this matchup, I mean, I don't know what Curtis Blaydes did to the UFC where they're kind of giving him these guys that are getting huge steps up. Rizvan Kuniev debuted against Curtis Blaydes, and now Josh Hockett is getting a huge jump up. But I think Blaydes, his age, is the biggest problem and red flag for me in this fight. I think him being 35 years old, and he's definitely on the lower end of his career, or on the declining end of his career. I think Josh Hockett, it's way too much, way too soon. Josh Hockett, if he's going to put out Curtis Blaydes, which I think is his best case, because I think Curtis Blaydes can win a decision here. I think Curtis Blaydes is technical enough with submission defense and takedown defense that he will cause problems for Hockett in that regard. And I think if you look at the people that Blaydes has been knocked out by, really, especially as of somewhat recently, it is Francis Ngannou, one of the hardest punchers ever. Derek Lewis, most knockouts in UFC history. And then, who else was in that conversation? Tom Aspinall. Those are the people that have knocked him out. And Sergey Pavlovich have knocked him out. Some of the hardest hitters in UFC history. And those are the people who put him out. Jailton Almeida, he beat. Rizvan Kuniev, he narrowly beat, but he was injured bad in that fight, if I remember correctly. Volkov, he beat a while ago, but he beat him. He's doing decent enough against certain levels of competition, and I think he'll beat Josh Hockett. I think he's smart enough to know how to defend himself from takedowns and submissions a little bit, and I think he's still got a chin enough to not get put out by Josh Hockett, unless Hockett's got extraordinary power that I just haven't seen yet. He's very strong, but I think it's a lot of setup from the takedown threat and having that power and landing it good against a lot lower, less competition. I mean, Freeman was his last win from his last fight, and Freeman, I think Blades demolishes just as easily as Hackett did. So I'm going to go with Curtis Blades to win this fight. I do kind of want to see Hackett win because him winning on this big of a stage would be absolutely huge for him. But I think Blades wins this fight and holds off another guy kind of coming up. And yeah, I could see Hackett winning. He could land that shot. He could cause a lot more damage to Blades. I think he hits probably a little harder than Blades. But I just don't see him. I don't foresee him doing it to Curtis Blades, even though I will be rooting for him most likely on Saturday night. Then we move up to the co-main event of the evening, Azamat Murzakanov versus Paulo Costa. Now, Paulo Costa coming off the win over Roman Kopylov, and Murzakanov coming off of the, I believe it was a jab knockout of Alexander Rakic. This one's really tricky for me because part of me wants to just go with my gut and go with my brain and say Azamat Murzakanov wins this one. Paulo's moving up in weight. Murzakanov just one punch knocked out Rakic, is undefeated. But Paulo Costa, he looked really good in that last fight. Looked really good with his striking. Now he's moving up. He's not going to be weight drained. He might have a little bit more power, a little bit more energy. And he's bigger than Azamat Murzakanov, size-wise, reach-wise. Rakic isn't the most durable fighter in the world. You know what? I'm just going to bite the bullet. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with Paulo Costa to win this fight. I think he lands the better shots. I think he's going to mix it up to the body a little bit better. I think he's going to look good at light heavyweight. I don't know really where he would go. I don't know if there's many other people at light heavyweight that I would say he beats. But Murzakanov being smaller than him and Paulo coming off of the win, long enough layoff, Murzakanov looking very good but being smaller at this weight class. I'm going to go with Paulo Costa to win this fight. It sounds crazy. I think his body kicks will work pretty well. I don't know if Murzakanov is going to be really somebody that looks for a lot of takedowns on Paulo. So I think Paulo will be able to stay long and use kicks and chop at the legs, chop at the body. And I think he's going to win this fight by a decision where it is a close fight, 29-28 decision for Paulo Costa, where it could be the other way, but Paulo Costa makes more sense. And so, yeah, I think Paulo Costa gets a huge upset and beats Azamat Murzakanov. Number 14 middleweight beats the number 6 light heavyweight, which would cause a lot of mess up at light heavyweight, because who would Paulo Costa's next fight be? Magomed Ankalaev or something? Would be crazy, but yeah. I'm going with Paulo Costa to win in the co-main event. Absolutely crazy. And we move up to the main event. UFC light heavyweight title vacant fight for Yuri Prochazka and Carlos Ulberg. Now, this one is one of my most anticipated but worried fights of the year. I am terrified for this fight. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm picking Yuri Prochazka to win. I want Yuri to win. I want him to win bad. I want to see Yuri Prochazka with the belt wrapped around him again. And honestly, I know I had made videos about it before with Yuri and him being the most deserving fighter for custom shorts. I would not be opposed to them not giving him any, just so that if he wins this, then he could then go into his next fight with the championship shorts. Yuri in championship shorts, when he never got to wear them in the first place, would be amazing. But I think Yuri Prochazka wins this fight because, yes, Ulberg is very good. Very long, rangy, 6'4", 77-inch reach. I did not know that Yuri has an 80-inch reach and is 6'3", so pretty close in height and reach, but Ulberg seems a lot bigger. And Ulberg's very technical, got that Adesanya training, same style, very sniper, like hard power, very good counter striker. But Yuri just has that factor about him where he will not give up unless you make him, and you have to be one of the best to beat him. The only person to beat Yuri Pashka in I think for like the past 10 something years is Alex Pereira, who is one of the greatest fighters of all time. Other than that, Yuri has not lost. He beat Khalil Roundtree. He beat Jamal Hill. He's beat Alexander Rakic. He's beaten Glover Teixeira, beaten Dominic Reyes and Volkan Ozdemir, and beat a better Volkan Ozdemir than Carlos did. He's beaten all these fighters. And Carlos, in his last few fights, he's not beaten the most high caliber of opponents. He's beaten who was it? Alonzo Menifield, Volkan Ozdemir. Those two, Menifield, yeah, you should have. That's an easier fight for him. Ozdemir, impressive performance against Ozdemir. Should beat somebody like Ozdemir at this point, though. Then, who did he fight? Jan Blachowicz. I don't think he beat Jan Blachowicz in that fight at UFC London, which was the Leon Edwards Sean Brady card. I don't think he won that fight. I did not personally see him winning that fight. I saw Jan winning it, and I think Jan deserved that win. Where I think he did better damage, and I think he just outdid Olberg in that fight. And yeah, Jan's still one of the best light heavyweights in the world. Don't get it twisted. I think Jan gives anybody in this division a run for their money, no matter who it is, from the bottom to the top. Oop, message. I think he gives anybody a run for their money, bottom to the top. I think Olberg is a very good fighter, but I do not see him having beaten Jan Blachowicz. And Jan, I think Bogdan Guskov in the last fight that ended up being a draw, which I thought Guskov could have probably won it, I think Guskov did better than Olberg did. Guskov almost finished Jan, did better than Pereira and Olberg did. And then Olberg beats Dominic Reyes, who, yes, I'm a big fan of Dominic Reyes, but Yuri beat a better Dominic Reyes, who was only 2 fights removed from the John Jones performance, and Olberg beat one that, yeah, it's after that skid and was coming off of a couple of wins against not the greatest opponents. Yuri is coming off of a win over Khalil Roundtree, who went 4 hard rounds with Pereira, is very good, who dominated Jamal Hill. He's coming off of a win of dominating Jamal Hill. Yuri is that type of fighter that will go out there for the kill, and I think he's always in a fight. There's not a moment where Yuri can be counted out of a fight until it's over. Whether that's by finish or whether that's by him finishing it. He's never out of a fight. This fight could be in the 5th round. Olberg could be winning all of them. Yuri's going to go out there and put it on him and could finish him. That's just the way Yuri is, and I think Yuri will do it. I think Yuri is going to win this fight. I have no possibility of predicting how this goes because I'm so scared that Yuri's going to lose this fight. I think Olberg should probably win due to his youth, due to him being a very good striker, due to him being a counter striker with somebody that likes to rush in with his hands down. But also, Yuri in the Jamal Hill fight, that was the best performance of his career, ever. He put on a masterclass over Jamal Hill where, yes, he didn't win every single round, but he was constantly doing well against Jamal Hill, who was just coming off of the loss to Pereira. Then, Yuri in the Khalil fight was staying competitive in the second round. The first round was all Khalil. Second round, Yuri was being competitive. The third round, though, Yuri came out and had the classic Yuri Prochazka performance where he put on damage. He has such a good damage instinct where he knows when to hit you, how to hit you, where to go, mix it up, body to the head, to the legs. He knows when to clinch. He knows when to throw elbows, knees. He knows how to disorient you. He knows how to gas you. And I think that's going to be a problem for Olberg, too, is that Jan gassed him a little bit more. And Olberg has never had to go 5 rounds. He's trained for it with the Reyes fight, but he only went 1 round. And he didn't have somebody in his face twitching, ready to spring up on him and throw anything he's got and throw all these things and give you 18 different things to think about. And Yuri is that type of fighter. He's going to make you think about his right elbow, left elbow, punches, jabs, crosses, hooks, uppercuts, knees, kicks, head kicks, leg kicks, body knees, clinching you, taking you down, spinning elbows, spinning back fists, spinning kicks. Yuri is going to give you all those things to think about constantly, and he's going to be in your face, pushing up as much as he can when he's on the front foot. And that's a lot to wear on a person, make them think, make their brain start working, make them start sweating, make them anxious, make them overthink, make them gun shy, make them pre-fire when they shouldn't, make them react too hard and wear on their gas tank. And I think Yuri Prochazka will do that to Carlos Ulberg. And I think we'll see Yuri Prochazka be a 2-time light heavyweight world champion. And that's what I want to see. I want to see Yuri go out there and win this matchup. And prove that he is one of the best light heavyweights in the world, be back to being our world champion. And yeah, I think Carlos Ulberg obviously can win this. I'm going to say that again. I see him being able to win this, landing that counter shot and putting down Yuri. But I have confidence, full confidence. I'm going to put all of my hope and belief into Yuri Prochazka to win this fight, and that is my official prediction, is for Yuri Prochazka to beat Carlos Ulberg at UFC 327 and win the vacant world title. And yeah, Yuri Prochazka, that is my prediction. UFC 327, Prochazka Ulberg. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of each of these fights and my predictions for each of them, who you want to win the main event, and a lot of the other fights. I'm going to try and split a lot of these because this card is so full of stars. I'm going to fit a lot of this into different TikToks. So go check those out, Devin MMA. And yeah, thank you for watching, and bye.